This program is brought to you by generous donations from the community and sponsored by Stifel Financial.
Good evening, Nevada County. I'm Keith Overby, your host for tonight's edition of Nevada County Now. Tonight's top story is the search for a missing man. Michael Macintosh was last seen on January 12th when a motorist reported picking him up. He was hiking barefoot down by Hoyt's Crossing on the South Yuba River. The driver reported he seemed kind of disoriented and refused a ride into town. He claimed Michael wanted to stay in the location he was last seen. Two sheriff's deputies searched the area where Mike was reported being, but only located his water bottle. He's reported as still missing as of this report. Friends are asking that you call 702-768-2636 if you have any additional information. His mother and friends are extremely worried. And the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, in partnership with the California Highway Patrol and the Nevada County Sheriff's Search and Rescue, are conducting a search in the vicinity of Hoyt's Crossing. Searches are being conducted on foot and via CHP's helicopter. Macintosh was last seen at Hoyt's Crossing on January 12th, wearing a blue flannel shirt, tan pants, and no shoes. He's described as a 29-year-old Caucasian male, approximately 6 feet tall, weighing 150 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. For possible sightings of Macintosh, please call the Nevada County Regional Dispatch Center at 530-265-7880. And we'll continue to monitor this story and post any updates if we receive them. Now don't go away, we're going to take a short sponsor break and we'll be right back.
Thank you to Stifel Financial, proudly helping individuals pursue financial goals, businesses and organizations raise and protect capital, and communities offer a higher quality of life. To learn more, visit www.stifel.com.
It's heartbreaking to watch the news reports about the devastating fires in Southern California, and may be especially scary for residents of Nevada County as we recognize our own vulnerability to wildfire. If you're feeling helpless about what you can do to help fellow Californians impacted by this tragedy, we have some suggestions about how you can make a difference. Before you donate money, goods, or even consider volunteering, do your homework. Go to each organization's website and social media channels to check what is or what is not needed, and be wary of scammers who are taking advantage of this terrible situation. Also, consider long-term giving to any of these organizations, which will help the community beyond the immediate aftermath of the wildfires. We're going to post all of the links in this description of this video. First on the list is the Los Angeles Fire Department Foundation. Your donation will help to fund emergency fire shelters, hydration packs, and other equipment. Secondly is the California Community Foundation's Wildfire Recovery Fund, which supports a number of critical recovery services, including housing, case management, mental health, and medical care for dispatched residents. Another worthy organization is DirectRelief, a California-based nonprofit that provides medical resources for disaster recovery, and the American Red Cross and World Central Kitchen that are also safe and effective organizations you can depend upon to use funds in direct relief and firefighting efforts. To contribute to long-term assistance, the Center for Disaster Philanthropy's California Wildfire Recovery Fund gives grants to nonprofits and community groups throughout California to help in long-term care recovery. If you're interested in volunteering, LA Works has an excellent list of smaller organizations that need help in a variety of ways, including connecting displaced people with housing and providing RVs to house first responders. To contribute directly to specific individuals or families, GoFundMe has set up a dedicated page where you can donate to Southern California fire victims, first responders, and others through their separate fundraising accounts. There are also countless pets and wildlife that have been impacted by these fires. Organizations that need help include the Pasadena Humane Society, LA Animal Services, SPCA LA, Los Angeles County Animal Care, and the Best Friends Animal Society. For a comprehensive list of animal organizations involved in animal rescue and relief, go to the website Secret Los Angeles. All URLs for these organizations can be found in the More section of our YouTube page. And the Nevada County Library is excited to partner with Tahoe Backcountry Alliance to offer California SNO-Parks permits this year. California's 18 snow parks provide opportunities for non-motorized winter activities, including cross-country skiing, dog sledding, and snowplay. A handful of snow parks offer access to both motorized and non-motorized activities. They include cleared parking areas for vehicles. So visit your local Nevada County Library branch to check out one with your library card. Permits are available on a first-come, first-served basis, and they are loaned for 7 days and cannot be renewed. Also today, the Yuba Water Agency was awarded a $76.8 million contract to upgrade key components of their hydropower infrastructure in the Yuba County foothills. Kicking off in the fall of 2025, the Colgate Tunnel outage project will focus on the 4-mile-long rock tunnel and 1-mile penstock pipe that carries water from New Bullard's Bar Reservoir down to the powerhouse. Crews will repair clear debris, repair and reinforce worn parts, and install a protective valve that will enhance the ability to protect downstream infrastructure and improve maintenance access. They are funding these critical capital improvements with revenue from hydropower generation and state grant funds. And for more information, follow this story at yubawater.org. And the Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital Foundation has announced that they have met their fundraising goal for the Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital's Intensive Care Unit, also known as ICCU, campaign. Construction on the ICCU modernization project is set to begin in 2025, and these much-needed upgrades will include advanced telemetry systems, improved head wall designs, and state-of-the-art technology integration, all aimed at enhancing patient care, improving nursing efficiency, and providing greater comfort for families. Last year alone, the ICCU provided life-saving care to 1,604 patients, and this modernization will ensure they can continue to deliver top-quality care for our community's most vulnerable. Okay, folks, this next story should be classified as a Nevada County hidden gem, but one that sits right out in plain sight. At first glance, it's just like many other stories, but wait until you hear how long it took this story to unfold. Located on Highway 20, just north of Smartsville, sits one of the most beautiful pieces of land you may ever set your eyes on. 923 acres with ponds, cliffs, breathtaking views, and the lower Yuba River flowing through it. This land is a bit of a Cinderella project. the land has been virtually abandoned after the end of hydraulic mining in 1884, operating as a quarry and used to lightly graze cattle. An area once devastated by the hydraulic miners, but then left untouched for over a century, the property was rich in wetlands and wildlife. However, this beautiful area was at considerable risk. It was zoned for 5-acre developments, and that's when Bisnett Design Associates quickly moved to negotiate an option to buy the land and begin discussions with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the Wildlife Conservation Board, and the Trust for Public Lands, in addition to exploring limited development options which might generate resources to conserve the resource-rich lower area. By the end of 2010, they had recorded a new map for the property with the Yuba County and had reached an agreement with the Wildlife Conservation Board in collaboration with the Trust for Public Lands to purchase an additional 530 acres of the property, the Yuba Narrows Ranch. Subsequent agreements were made to purchase the adjacent Black Swan Ranch and the Excelsior Ranch No. 6, which allowed limiting development of an entire property to only 10 ranches on 215 acres. Thanks to years of hard work, vision, and dedication of all the partners, over 700 acres is now protected in perpetuity and is accessible to the public for hiking, fishing, bird watching, and horseback riding. Now don't go away. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be chatting with Brian Bisnett about this massive project.
Hi, I'm Erin Tarr, Executive Director of the Bear Yuba Land Trust. We're a local nonprofit that's been around for 33 years. We've protected over 25,000 acres of land, built over 50 miles of trail, and are always looking for new ways to connect the community with nature.
I'm Sean Clark, and I work on our lands and trails at Bear Yuba Land Trust. We'd love to have you become part of the Land Trust family. You can head on over to bylt.org to become a member, make a donation, or sign up for a volunteer work party, and come help us steward the land.
All right, folks, welcome back. And what we'd like to do now is welcome Brian Bisnett. Brian, welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
And I tell you, you're the brains behind this project.
Definitely done a lot of the heavy lifting, but in concert with a lot of associates, a lot of help.
Okay.
And a lot of allies. It takes a
us
proverbial village.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit, just briefly, about your background?
Okay, yeah, I'm a landscape architect and land use planner, which kind of set me up for this. So I was brought in to try and figure out what could be done with this piece of property, which was kind of the current property owner was going bankrupt on, and the gentleman who'd loaned him the money was starting to panic about. So I was brought in to try and find the solutions for it. So my background as a landscape architect is basically to take a piece of land and try and find out what it wants to be when it grows up, if you would. And so that's what brought me to this. But I've been working throughout my career on projects large and small. And this was by the I became a land use planner after years of being a landscape architect, trying to find ways to influence and affect larger pieces of property.
Okay.
And certainly down in at the Blue Point Excelsior property that you described very well, found the opportunity to do that.
Okay. This property that you said now, it said it was that you have over 700 acres now.
Well, that's actually it needs to be updated. I think we're going to call it about 1,400 acres in total.
Double the size.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those projects that won't stop growing.
And to develop this, so much of it's going to be left natural.
Right.
But there are going to be some homes in it.
Correct.
You said the previous narrative said there was going to be 20 homes.
No, 11 homes, actually.
11.
Yeah, 11 20-acre parcels on top of the ridge.
Okay. And so it's not like we're going to have a subdivision out there.
Oh, no, far from it. They're 20-acre properties, and on those properties, since there's only 11 of them, obviously it contains the development to a little over 200 acres. And there the building envelopes are reduced to 2 acres in size, so the actual building will occur only on a small portion of those parcels. And the bulk of the parcels is left open, even though it's private property, to grazing and protection of what historic resources remain on the property. So it's an opportunity for people to build, the people who own those 12 properties, to build and live in the middle of that historic environment in a way that really disturbs very little of it as well.
Okay, so the folks that buy these properties, these 20-acre ranches,
Correct.
they build their home and landscape around their house, I guess, a lawn or a driveway or whatever. No more than 2 acres of that 20.
Correct.
And then they, the rest of it is to be left natural.
Correct. Yeah.
Does that include, is it like open range that there's no, the property lines are basically non-existent? It's open to all the wildlife or cattle or whatever to graze?
Correct. Yeah. The CCNRs provide for perimeter fencing, but it's set in from the property boundaries themselves by 100 feet, so that there's not a grid of fencing that separates the properties from one another. We wanted to leave the boundaries, the perimeters of the property open, permeable for wildlife.
Okay.
And then the fencing that does occur is the fencing that's approved of by Fish and Wildlife, which is a 4-wire fencing with smooth top and bottom. It's not, and only the middle 2 barbed, so that wildlife can go either under or over it as well.
So you basically have 200-foot wide
corridors between properties.
Thank
correct.
you. That's the word. I was starting to say pathways, but the corridors is better. Between each piece of property.
Correct.
Would that be available if folks want to have horses? They could ride their horses through there?
Absolutely. And that's part of the point, is not only do we have pathways that are open for property owners to ride between the properties, but then they also have access to the larger fish and wildlife lands that surround them. So there's 700 acres preserved all around on the Yuba Narrows property. That goes all the way down to the Yuba River. It goes through around the Black Swan Pond, as well as the flowing down to the river and past the old historic town site of Mooney Flat. And so they have access to those pathways as well, which creates riding opportunities that extend through the 700 acres, and now will hopefully in the future extend to the adjacent 500 acres as the project grows.
Now these corridors and whatnot, are they going to be limited to horseback, or would you be able to take an ATV down through there?
No ATV, non-motorized vehicles, e-bikes, electronic bikes are allowed, and hiking and equestrian use.
But no motorcycles?
No motorcycles, no dirt bikes, no quads, correct.
All right, good. So there's only you got 1,400 acres. There's only going to be 20 pieces.
Oh, 12 of them in the interior, 12 20-acre parcels.
I keep 20. I guess that's the 20 acres. I keep having
right,
20 stuck in my
12,
head.
20.
So now, right now, out of those 12 parcels that you have identified for ranchettes, how many of those are sold, or how many people have bought?
We sold 9 of them so far.
Okay.
So 3 of them remain. And so we've, and occasionally a couple may come back on for sale. There's been about 5 beautiful homes built up there so far. And so it's taken shape, and people have, there's some very nice ranches up there with horses, and they have moved from very nice ranches elsewhere, but elected to build up here because they could give away their horse trailer. And they don't have to trailer their horses up to ride. They can just ride off out of their barn and onto the trails, hit the trails.
I guess what else I was wanting to ask. Okay, this is what's the cost of one of these pieces of 20 acres, roughly?
For you?
It probably depends.
We can make a deal. No, yeah, right.
Okay, yeah,
Right.
I'll just write you a check.
Right,
right
exactly.
Now. How about that?
Yeah, but anywhere from $225,000 to $300,000.
For the property.
Correct.
Now, is that property, let me ask you about infrastructure going into it.
Okay.
Do you have paved roads, for example, laid out through there?
We have gravel roads.
Gravel roads. Okay.
Throughout, and we brought in underground electrical. We didn't want to have overhead electrical lines disturbing the views. The views on the top of the ridge, and it's something you really have to see, go out there to believe, really, because the top of the ridge, you have views all the way west to the Sutter Buttes and to the Coast Ranges. To the east, you have all the way up into the Sierra and the Sierra Buttes. So it's one of the few places I think I've ever seen a two-butte view. As a matter of fact, where you can see both of them. But the views are breathtaking. And so we did not want to have power lines breaking that up. So we had to negotiate with PG&E to bring underground power all the way up. And negotiating with PG&E is never the easiest task in the world. And the cost of underground power was sobering. And,
but it's also a safety factor as far as
well, nowadays, and there's no question about it. But what we also did is the property has at its base is the Meade Canal, which is the westernmost extent of NID, traveling in one of the old hydraulic mining ditches, and we saw that as a huge asset both for fire safety and just convenience. So we've pumped that up the hill, and we have pressurized NID available to all the properties. So that you have the opportunity to turn on a spigot and get NID water in ample amounts of it at 40 psi. So there's the water, the availability of agricultural water, the underground power, as well as the rich groundwater resources up there, all made them fairly easy and attractive to develop.
So all these pieces of property already infrastructure, they have power, they have water, septic, or do you have sewer?
No, septic system absolutely throughout there. Correct. Yeah, they all have approved septic. So they're all, and really what they have most importantly is they're surrounded by 700 acres of the most fantastic open space imaginable. And that's an open space area owned by the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We sold to them and managed by them for the public benefit. So they have use of it, and I think more importantly that we're growing that area, and by trying to extend the open space public area and conserve the other breathtakingly beautiful and significant land by the river, we're going to see those trails grow. And the vision is that the trail will grow to the extent that it goes from Mooney Flat Road at the Nevada County line through the Excelsior property, around the Yuba River, all the way down to Parks Bar Bridge. And at that point, it can go down Timbuktu Road and into Spenceville Wildlife Preserve. So you will have trails that extend for literally dozens and dozens of miles.
Great.
And so it's growing, and we're about halfway there yet. But
so it's also, but this is all being built with a very conservation-minded, I don't want to use the word green because it's not necessarily that, but it's a conservation-minded development that, what's to keep somebody from taking their 20 acres and trying to subdivide it?
Well, the CCNRs prohibit subdivision of it, and so they mandate that the development be concentrated to a small portion of the 20-acre property. There's the 2 acres for the building and the outbuildings. There's another 3 acres for an agricultural envelope, so that if you want to grow, if you want to have a vineyard, for example, or an orchard, you can fence that. You need to fence the deer out of that, so you can have taller fencing. And then the rest of it would be grazing pasture land. And again, to that 100-foot border, at which point the corridors, the open space corridors occur. So that's all protected by CCNRs, which were kind of carefully crafted, and we get together with the homeowners association, and we tweak them as need to be to accommodate, what's happening and changes that occur.
If someone kind of said, I don't care about the CCNRs, I want to do this, who's the police on this, so to speak?
Well, the homeowners association, you can bring suit if someone violates. When you buy the land, you agree to follow the dictates of the CCNRs. Okay. So it's really what's necessary is really the agreement that everyone makes to maintain the quality of life that they bought the property in the first place. So
Great.
yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, of course, in Nevada County, we're probably very aware of this because of our mining history. There's a lot of brownfield type situations. Maybe you're familiar with that term, I'm sure.
Very, very much so.
What kind of guarantees do you have that people are going to find something terrible underneath their property or something like that?
Well, that was the fascinating thing, is when we basically began doing our research, which took us, as I said, we started out with a 2-year plan, and we've been spending since 2003 studying the land and learning more about it. It's hydraulic mining land, so the backyards of some of the ranches are literally all off in a 300-foot cliff, because those are the cliffs that were excavated or dug out by the hydraulic mining. So hydraulic mining had a very significant impact on the land and made an indelible footprint on the land. But it's one, as I've mentioned, as you mentioned in the intro, that made this piece of land. And when I talk about the land, I'm talking about the 900 acres of Excelsior as well as the 500 acre of Blue Point. And for this land all traveled together as one ranch. It was hydraulic from both sides by the hydraulic miners. And by the time they finished their work in 1884, it was really the most profoundly disturbed, even devastated landscape you can imagine. There literally wasn't any greenery on the property at all. Every tree had been cut down, used to power the steam engines. They had excavated, blown away half of the mountain on either side, creating these 300-foot cliffs and huge pits that they would wash the gravel through to hydraulic mine in these very long tunnels in hard bedrock, the tunnels which still drain the valley today. And makes for some fascinating spelunking if you like to go in tunnels, as some of us do. But they definitely left their footprint. Hydraulic mining was powered primarily, the major offender with hydraulicking was mercury, because the gold here is so fine that when they'd wash it through the tunnels and try and let the heavy material fall out, the gold there, because it had been ground by the ancient Yuba River, and I didn't mention, but all this gravel and these 300-foot deep deposits of gold-bearing placer gravel were left there by the Pliocene Yuba River when it diverted from where the Yuba River runs today and made this dogleg in Smartsville. And so as they would try and capture that gold, which had been ground so smooth, so fine, it would tend to float away, and they'd have to use mercury technology. So in these tunnels, every one of these tunnels would have a mercury boat, and as you go into the tunnels, you can still see where they would hang it from, that would fill the pools of mercury, with mercury in the tunnel, and the gold in the gravel would adhere to the mercury and settle out. And so when they would flush the tunnels, they would pull out all that mercury, and they would try and hold on to it very carefully because that mercury had gold in it. But and then they would cook off the mercury in the most dangerous part of the process and to extract the gold. And as they extracted millions and millions of dollars worth of gold, but in the process, an awful lot of mercury was used, and a lot of it ended up in very fine quantities in the gravels. Okay. And so from a homeowner, a property owner standpoint, the properties that we sold are up on the ridge, not down in the valley where the bulk of the hydraulic mining occurred. And so that land is tested very clean. The mercury came into play when we were trying to negotiate with Department of Fish and Wildlife to buy the land, because the last thing they want to do is buy a contaminated piece of property. So we ended up with holding on to a large property that was breathtakingly beautiful, filled with historic resources, and very significant for wildlife resources, but had traces of mercury in every shovel of gravel. And mercury that, while in the gravel, is actually not that dangerous, not that toxic, does not have, it's metal mercury, it doesn't interact, it's not bioavailable, as they say. But when it erodes into the Yuba River, that's where the problem occurs.
Basically, it's whatever's underneath these houses has been there for
It
centuries.
is correct, and it It doesn't.
Of the mine.
No, not at all. And so it doesn't have the mercury. But when we were trying to deal with the surrounding open space, which we owned and needed to bring in partners, the Department of Fish and Wildlife or the Yuba Water Agency, the mercury became a concern. The Department of Fish and Wildlife, which was our major investor or buyer in a portion of the property, only bought the northernmost, the portions of the property on which no hydraulic mining occurred. The Yuba Water Agency, or excuse me, at first the Bear Yuba Land Trust came in to buy the Black Swan Pond. And then after some testing and confirmation that there wasn't a threat to water quality, the Department of Fish and Wildlife bought that. The Blue Point property, where the bulk of the hydraulic mining occurred, the Department of Fish and Wildlife backed away from the deal, and we were in danger of falling into foreclosure with this beautiful land, and it would have been put on the chopping block because they were concerned about the mercury in the gravels. Fortunately, we found an agency with some vision and the facility, the ability to deal with it, the Yuba Water Agency, that ended up buying the property and has taken the cliff areas, which is where the erosion was occurring, which is where mercury-bearing gravels could wash into the river and churn, mix with oxygen and methylate and become available to fish and start to cause problems. And they laid back those cliffs. They were able to bring in the equipment. Down there, they're working in collaboration with Hanson Brothers out of Grass Valley.
Okay.
And they've done a tremendous amount of work, very impressive work to lay those cliffs back, those erosive cliffs back, and vegetate them so that the soil is not washing into the river. The mercury is locked into the gravel work and basically stay harmless. And they've taken what was a problem and turned it into a benefit where they're going to be able to vegetate the sides of the river and create the salmon spawning habitats that the river hasn't seen for 150 years.
All right, let me ask. I've never been out there. I know roughly where you're talking about. As a member of the public, can I drive out there and take a look?
You can. Well, what you can do is you can go into look it up on the Bear Yuba Land Trust website, the Black Swan Pond and Reserve, and they have a small parking lot there. And you can, from that parking lot, there are trails that go along up to the top of the cliffs and around to the Yuba River. And you can tour a tremendous amount of the resources there. The Blue Point property, which is the 500 acres directly behind Smartsville, owned by the Yuba Water Agency, currently is not open to public access. They're completing the restoration work, so they have large equipment down there, and they're moving tens of thousands of cubic yards of material around, so they want to be able to finish that work. But ultimately, our anticipation is the bulk of that property then will be transferred to Yuba County and made accessible to the public. So at that point, you'll be able to walk from Mooney Flat Road all the way through around the Yuba River and then through the Blue Point property down to the bustling community of Timbuktu.
So the public could go fishing on the Yuba River there?
They will be able to in the future. Right now, the fishing at the Yuba River is only available down by, or at this portion of the river, the lower Yuba River, down by Parks Bar Bridge. And then it's possible to walk up within the river channel farther north or farther upstream, which is where the fly fishing, I'm told, is extraordinary.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of areas along the Yuba it's hard to get to because it's private property, fishing clubs, much like a hunting club type thing, duck hunting club or something, but this is fishing. And so,
and Timbuktu is still accessible.
Piqued my interest there.
Right. No, it is, and certainly in the future there will be additional fishing opportunities provided. Right now, the only access to fishing, then, as I say, is down by, for the public, is down by Parks Bar Bridge.
Are you getting salmon up through there?
Oh, the salmon, yeah. And the work that they've completed, that Yuba Water Agency has completed along the river is breathtaking. We're saying in the fall we saw significant returns of salmon, and the salmon runs have been very impacted by both drought and all the disturbances. But now, particularly as the vegetation takes hold and there's more vegetated and shaded areas of the river, we're going to see a lot more opportunities for salmon spawning. And we expect to see tremendously
what other species?
Numbers.
Steelhead?
Oh, steelhead, certainly a lot of steelhead up there. Steelhead and salmon and trout.
Okay.
And so What they're seeing now is actually because the Yuba River is blessed with such cold flows. The water in the lower Yuba comes out of the bottom of Englebright, so it's colder than a lot of the other channels. So a lot of salmon from even other runs are finding the Yuba River and preferring that to their native run because the habitat is improved.
Well, that cold water coming out, there should be a trout fishery there too.
Well, it certainly is great for trout.
Okay.
Steelhead, sure.
How would you drive? How do you get there?
Okay.
I guess it's the best thing. You know, if I wanted to go out and take a look, how would I get there?
Well, right now, again, to the Bear Yuba Land Trust website and the Black Swan Preserve will take you to the best trailhead for the trail access around there. And that trail then, so Mooney Flat Road, you'll turn right on Mooney Flat Road.
Off of 20.
Off of 20.
Right there, there's a little, used to be a restaurant.
The Driftwood
right
restaurant may reopen.
Oh.
We'll hope for the best.
Okay.
I don't like to drive far when I'm hungry. But you'll go down about a quarter mile, and on the left, you'll see a sign for the Bear Yuba Land Trust and a dirt road leading to their small parking lot. We're working with the Bear Yuba Land Trust to possibly create opportunities to expand that parking lot.
So you're right off Highway 20.
We are directly
Not even like a quarter of a mile or
the
something.
land goes down too, is bordered by Highway 20. So when our Ranch 1 is at the corner of Mooney Flat Road and Highway 20, and right across the street from the Driftwood.
Ranch 1, that somebody's property that somebody's buying?
Yes.
Okay,
that's still
somebody's
available.
20 acres.
One of the 11 properties is right there on the corner.
Okay.
And then you'll take that trail, and that trail can lead you all the way around the ponds, down to the Yuba River, back up on the overlooking the river, where you see some of the most incredible basaltic formations. There's a trail that goes all the way down to the Yuba River, right in the middle of the Narrows. Breathtaking piece of.
Is there on your website? Is there a map of these trails?
We do have, both the Land Trust and our website has good maps of the area, and then those trails are constantly improving. We're working with the Yuba Water Agency to look to a way to open up trails through the Blue Point property itself, trails that could then take you all the way down to Timbuktu Road, which then can take you all the way down to Parks Bar Bridge, and which then can take you all the way around to Spenceville Wildlife Preserve.
Okay.
So that's it's hard to string those things all together with just words, but if you look at the maps on the website, you'll see that we're on the verge of really creating, we've already created miles and miles of trails, but I think we'll be able to tie these trail portions together and create some contiguous runs of trail that are upwards of 20 miles long.
Well, it's called the Bear Yuba, so it sounds like you're going to connect those.
The Bear Yuba Land Trust has done a great job of creating a vision and following through with it, piece by piece, and they've been a great partner to have.
Is there, I think our time's maybe running a little short. I could sit here and keep talking to you about this for a long time. And it seems like this is a very near and dear project to you.
Unexpectedly, it's become a life's work.
A life's work. Well, you got to do something when you retire, right?
You do.
And this is what you've chosen to do. Some people play golf. You've chosen to do this, I suppose.
No.
Is there anything you'd like to add to what we've talked about that I haven't covered?
Well, I think the thing that's really impressed me the most is kind of the way that if you kind of stay out of the way, these stories can keep growing. And and we started off with a relatively small focus, and then we realized how much more we could do. And when we realized the partners we had to work with, that's what's really made the difference. So I've mentioned the Bear Yuba Land Trust, the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We've worked with the Yuba Water Agency, came on and became an incredible supporter, and really without their vision and resources, we couldn't have made it all happen. The Hanson Brothers, Tykert Enterprises has lent expertise to the job. And then just having the conversations with people on the ground, the landowners, the people who've been there all their lives, and to realize that that their interests are really the same. Everyone who's been connected with that landscape wants to see it conserved and preserved and wants to.
So you're getting good cooperation from ranchers around you also that are abutting.
And
they're not thinking you're coming in and just building a subdivision or something.
No, or trying to take their land for open space
Right.
too. The fact is that it's, I think, and the real lesson we learned here is that it can really be a win-win proposition here, and there's not a conflict between conservation and property rights, and that you can really create a vision. My goal is that when my kids and my grandkids walk on this land, they're going to see it every bit as beautiful as when I first saw it. And in fact, even more so, because we see that the one thing and the biggest lesson this land has taught me is that, as I said, at the end of hydraulic mining, it was the most devastated landscape imaginable. After 150 years of just being left alone, it's one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
All right, terrific.
And it just speaks to the Earth's ability to heal itself.
All right, well, thank you, Brian.
That's my pleasure.
I appreciate you coming. You're most interesting, I tell you.
Well,
now I'm going to drive out there and look, because I really didn't know this was even out there, and now I'm curious. I go down Highway 20 all the time, by Mooney Flat, and I'm like, I didn't know that was there. I mean, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Okay.
Appreciate all the information.
Well, we'll talk again.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, folks. Thank you for watching this edition of Nevada County Now. Now, if you would like to help contribute or write stories, appear on a show, or even become a host, I became a host, so I think you can. Please check out the details on our website at nevadacountymedia.org/NCN. This program is local news and information brought to you by local residents. And remember to stay safe, take care of each other, and get out there and explore areas just like this that this community has to offer. There's more of them out there. Good night now. Take care.